Sauce from the Pharaoh. I do this for my queens, rocking kingdom apparel.
Plus, I've got no area. I'm scarier than rebels in Somalia. Fools be thinking my last name it's Ochoa. Supplier, mozzarella. Observe as I bum rush the Federal Reserve. Sensory overload, making you victim of my venom. Breaking down your molecular structure before I digest even. Instant paralysis. I'm crazy swift with this. You're on my hit list. I'm on your chick's wish list because of this ability to strike repeatedly. Stay coiled. Fools test this and boils. I bring freaks out at night like the gargoyles.
Sauce from the Pharaoh. I do this for my kings, rocking kingdom apparel. Sauce from a Pharaoh. I do this for my queens, rocking kingdom apparel. Sauce from the Pharaoh. I do this for my kings, rocking kingdom apparel. Sauce from the Pharaoh. I do this for my queens, rocking kingdom apparel. Sauce from the Pharaoh. I do this for my kings, rocking kingdom apparel. Sauce from a Pharaoh. I do this for my queens, rocking kingdom apparel. Sauce from the Pharaoh. I do this for my kings, rocking kingdom apparel. Sauce from the Pharaoh. I do this for my queens, rocking kingdom apparel.
Don't need to recount the votes. I'm here to destroy all your hopes, dreams, aspirations. It's like poetry with musical inclinations. I see you peripherally, breathe easily, step lightly like on eggshells, or see real shells. I ring bells, bling bling is green. Don't necessarily need to be seen, but I do need to be heard. In my brain I've accumulated mucho verbs. I'm taking herds to the third curve, tentacles reaching up into the suburbs. 10 o'clock, do you know where your child is at? Inside of a room, all black, grown men beats, that's where we at. As I stack chips, pockets ain't made of glass, so you can't see me dip.
Sauce from the Pharaoh. I do this for my kings, rocking kingdom apparel. Sauce from a Pharaoh. I do this for my queens, rocking kingdom apparel. Sauce from the Pharaoh. I do this for my kings, rocking kingdom apparel. Sauce from the Pharaoh. I do this for my queens, rocking kingdom apparel.
Came from the water, evaporated moisture. Wavy wave in here, I do it for the culture. Cypher, music, I do this. 2023, still moving with a movement. BK where I came from, but the BX raised me in 2015. I became wavy, named by SP. The streets never changed me. I just work smarter, I just work harder. Wanna be Nino, so I need a Carter. So I moved to Harlem, that's where it all started. Discovered my flow, and I became a problem. Can't solve them, why would you want to? I do what I want to, you do what you can do. When it come to bars, I'm lit like a candle.
Sauce from the Pharaoh. I do this for my kings, rocking kingdom apparel. Sauce from a Pharaoh. I do this for my queens, rocking kingdom apparel. Sauce from the Pharaoh. I do this for my kings, rocking kingdom apparel. Sauce from the Pharaoh. I do this for my queens, rocking kingdom apparel.
Plus, I've got no area. I'm scarier than rebels in Somalia. Fools be thinking my last name it's Ochoa. Supplier, mozzarella. Observe as I bum rush the Federal Reserve. Sensory overload, making you victim of my venom. Breaking down your molecular structure before I digest even. Instant paralysis. I'm crazy swift with this. You're on my hit list. I'm on your chick's wish list because of this ability to strike repeatedly. Stay coiled. Fools test this and boils. I bring freaks out at night like the gargoyles.
Source from the Pharaoh, I do this for my kings, rocking kingdom apparel. Source from a Pharaoh, I do this for my queens, rocking kingdom apparel. Source from the Pharaoh, I do this for my kings, rocking kingdom apparel. Source from the Pharaoh, I do this for my queens, rocking kingdom apparel.
And good evening. Welcome to our weekly podcast. This is Wednesday. And of course, we do this every week from 7 p.m. Belize time to 9 p.m. Belize time. You would have to adjust your time zone to where you are. We have Gregory Morrison coming in from Los Angeles. And of course, we're out of New York City. There's Gregory. Good evening. Welcome, sir.
Good evening. Good evening to you, sir. And good evening to all our guests out there this evening.
Oh, yeah. Of course, Clinton is up there in New York City. I understand moved into his new studio. So things are happening. Hopefully, we'll get our own studio. I wouldn't mind one with a piano in the background. But for now, we'll have to work with what we got, no? So, Lisa is online. Good evening, Lisa.
Good evening, gentlemen. Good evening, audience. Great to be with you guys once more.
Thank
Good
you
to hear
very
you
much.
sounding so vibrant and healthy.
Yes, yes, I
am.
am. Thanks and praise to God.
I am myself and the men from Ali virus I pick up from somebody hugging too many states, people that coming through.
Oh, you
So,
think that's what it is, huh? I thought it was probably those PUP that's selling land.
it could probably be, it might be a combination, man. And speaking of politics, I see the United Democratic Party is again having big problems. The the current standard bearer for Alberts, Tracy, who is hoping to pick up, is filing some sort of petition for a recall of the current leader of the opposition. It seems like she's not getting any headway with that. The petition was rejected by the chairman. So there's a whole lot of, I hope they understand, though, that they're violating the Constitution, because we need a vibrant opposition, a viable opposition, in particular with what's happening now, because yes, power does corrupt, and absolute power does corrupt, absolutely. And they seem to be trying to give these people absolute power. No good. I see Gregory Misers coming in. Gregory is our guest for this evening. Greg, good evening. Welcome, sir.
Evening. How are you?
All right. We're hearing you loud and clear. Good. You know Gregory and you know Lisa, I believe.
Good evening.
Show.
Evening, everybody.
Yeah.
Yes.
How is it going in your world? What's the situation over there in the athletic department?
Well, we have a little bit of discord that's happening. As with anything, as you just forementioned in the realm of politics in Belize, it's no different, right? And you're right. Absolute power corrupts. Power always corrupts. Power, money, those things are very corrupting, and they're usually, in my experience, in every aspect of athletics and or professionalism, persons usually get very jumpy when we start talking about accountability and truth. And we sometimes all have a problem with when the truth is being revealed, right? So with that being said, my the two things I wanted to do when I came into the fold within athletics and trying to uplift our youth in Belize was that one, I'm here to uplift and do everything I can to uplift with all the resources that I've earned and the relationships I've garnered over the years, and the other was to bring accountability,
Good evening,
because
Sonia.
the first step we need to take as a country is accountability, right? Who's going to take you seriously if they don't think you're accountable?
Well, who's going to grab that bull by the horn?
Yeah.
Because nobody wants to apparently give up. And you're speaking of truth. I was speaking to a friend of mine today, and he's telling me about whose truth, and there are different truths. And I don't believe that. I believe there's one truth. There's your perception and the other person's perception, but truth remains what it is. It
That's
is.
not true, Mr. Chairman.
How would you argue against that? Why would you think that? Why is it not true?
It gets really complicated, but truth
But
over time changes. It could.
I listen. Things change, but what it changes to is then the truth. If I see a boat on the sea and I see a boat, that's the truth. It's a boat. If the boat sinks and you go under, there is still a boat. So that's the truth. That it's a boat. Now you might see it on a different angle, but at the end of the day, I think truth is truth. I don't think it changes. The truth does not change. Our perception of it might change. But let's go back to the athletic. It's the Belize Athletic Association that you belong to, correct?
That is correct.
Now you came to Belize with a lot of time in the States and a lot of experience garnered over there, and a lot of education. I understand. You're a qualified trainer, right?
Yes, I'm a certified, licensed, qualified, educated, well practiced, and not just well practiced, but I have results to show for it.
Well, one truth for sure. One second. One truth for sure is that we do need some help in that department, right? Go ahead, Gregory.
Yeah, I mean, what I want to kind of understand is in the athletic field and stuff, there are different sporting activities, and then there's this overall governing body. And then what I don't see is an effort to promote true competitive athleticism in Belize. We do things for a very short period of time for an event and so on, then we move away. And I'm trying to see what we can do to establish what type of funding is needed. How do we organize where we are good at, have some competitive advantages, and start building on that so that we can become competitive in some areas and be full participant in it. I noticed that in the Olympics we had one athlete going, and I think that was that's didn't speak best for us. I think we could do better than that. And what does it take? Is it funding? Is it training? Is it facilities? How do we break all those down and start identifying where we could make some differences and where we could encourage our young people to participate? So I know that's long and loaded, but those are my concerns.
Well, your concerns are very valid concerns. They are my concerns as well. The first, just to, I guess, condense all of it is you are 100% right. Facilities is an issue. The funding is an issue. All these things are issues. But we have already had a roadmap. Jamaica has given us a roadmap. Grenada has given us a roadmap. Dominica has given us a roadmap, right? Those countries all had somebody organized and entrusted to help them getting in a direction to develop their youth. So when we come to funding, well, we're never going to get any funding. Well, let me rephrase that. It's not that we're never going to get any funding. Eventually, hopefully, one day, as G. Mike said, somebody's got to grab the bulls by the horn, and I'm trying to wrestle it, but it's going to happen. But we have to be accountable to our parent body, as you aforementioned. Our responsibility is to ensure that we have all our finances in order. Every September, October, we're supposed to report those finances. Then we are eligible for a certain amount of grants, I could tell you for a fact we didn't get the other than the mandatory administrative grant, we didn't get anything else, and it was our fault. It was 100% our fault. It was our fault the year before. It was our fault the year before that, and the year before that, and the year before that, because we're not accountable. We have outstanding bills to our parent body. We have no accounting, and then when we finally do get some accounting, we find out that there's an unacceptable amount of funds we cannot find, and that is just not acceptable. So if we can't police ourselves and we can't be accountable to ourselves, nobody's gonna reach out and say, "Here, Belize, we know you have talent, but why should we give you a penny if you have all this talent and you can't develop any of it? Or you can't manage the small amount of funds that we give you. Why should we give you any more?" So those are the things that we need to do. And also within that same context, in terms of training, somebody like me, I was born in America. My parents, I lived in Belize for a good portion of my young life, a portion of my teenage life, and a good portion of my adult life after I retired from the military. My ties and heritage to Belize are undeniable, right? I live there. I have a house in Belize. My children call Belize home, right? So I have a passion, I have a desire to give back to Belize where I know it was lacking. 24 years ago, I came to Belize to do the same thing as a young man, and I got turned away because absolute power is corrupting. Just that little bit. Just a little bit of power is corrupting. They want to hold on to that power for that the ability to say I am the greatest and I'm the best coach or I'm the best this but it's so short-sighted that it ends up becoming an ego thing where nobody wants to give it up. Nobody wants to do what's in the best interest of the athletes and the future of the country, because we have to make very we have to make decisions, right? And the bottom line is, if you have not produced, then we need to move on and we need to find a different way. And when people, I am not the first person to bring these ideas to Belize, right? We have a Belizean coach, Mr. Turton, that has coached world champions. The coaches that are coaching at the highest levels, he has coached them. But we don't use any of his resource. We actually reject him, as I am being rejected at the moment, because we bring our truth, our professionalism and truth.
Mr. Myers, this is Lisa. Good evening and thanks for joining us.
Good evening. Good evening.
Good evening. We met briefly at the LA Summit, and
yes, I remember.
And I was very intrigued by your enthusiasm and the wealth of knowledge you were bringing to the sporting, the industry in Belize. My disappointment at this time has always been the different or different bodies of systems that Belize has in place for sport, for all sports. What is your relationship now, where as far as the Ministry of Sports, the Sports Council, and the Athletic Association? Where have they severed ties with you completely, or are you still a part of the organization and making it a fundamental part of moving forward?
Those ties have been severed with me. So as far as the Minister of Sports and the different ministries or whatnot, we still are in constant communication. In fact, I just presented 2 scholarships to 2 young men in Belize. And then we're working on we've come up with a program to get some university-aged students to GC Foster on a guaranteed acceptance, where we have to try to find a little bit of funding to get their room and board and so on and so forth. So we're still working. the powers that be, not the, let me phrase that, certain individuals that are spearheading I guess, a slanderous campaign to have me removed from the association as an executive. Um, they it's always the one or two that are the loud ones, right?
Right.
Um, that end up creating an environment that's not conducive for success. And that's kind of where we lie. And like I said, when I came onto the executive of the association, I came here to, and I let everybody know very clearly that I'm going to ensure that we are accountable. And I let people know, Mr. God rest his soul, Mr. Pilgrim was, I wouldn't say lockstep with the vision and the direction that I still have, but we were very close to being lockstep. And while we had our some differences, we knew that this was going to be a very challenging uphill battle, because the way things have been done for years and years, it takes a long time to change that mindset. Now that he's not there, it's me alone fighting this fight, along with the current president, and it's become almost comical, right?
What are the objections they're presenting to you? Why they don't want to accept your plans or your suggestions as to what can be done to improve the situation?
Well, I believe that, well, in fact, it's not a belief anymore, because they have put it on the news. They took something that could have been an internal matter that should have been dealt with internally, and they put it in the news. They put it on Channel 5 News and broadcast it. One, they're on this Sunday, we are having a special General Assembly to take a vote of no confidence in our president, who is working exponentially hard.
Who is the president?
Kojak Smith.
Kojak Smith, okay.
Yes, and he is doing, in my opinion, a fantastic job of trying to navigate all the disruptors, right?
You get along with him?
Oh, we get along very well. We don't agree, like with Mr. Pilgrim, we don't agree on everything, but we professionally discuss our disagreements, and we come to a point where we can move forward. I can't say the same for the rest of our executives. Now, they're solely.
Let me ask you a question. Who appoints the executive, and how is it comprised that is forming this governing body? How is that structured?
The executive is elected. So every 4 years, there's an election, and you're elected into your position.
By who?
By the members of the athletic association. In order to be a member of the association, there's some categories that you must fall into: a coach, certified coach. You have represented the country internationally, a parent of an internationally represented athlete, so on and so forth. There are certain requirements that you must meet in order to become a member of the association.
Okay. And so this elected body is responsible for managing and organizing all athletic activities in Belize, or is it some limited sport activities that there?
We the Athletic Association are mandated to organize our national championships, and then to sanction the other track and field or athletics. Just in track and field, we are the sanctioning body for the international body, which is World Athletics. I'm
thinking in athletics, we have boxing, we have volleyball, we have soccer, we have
only track and field.
Oh, this is mainly just track and field we're talking about?
This is just track and field.
Oh,
okay. Are you under a bigger umbrella?
Yes.
An organization?
We fall under two parent bodies. One is NACAC, which is North American and Caribbean. That the president of that is Mike Sands. And then they also fall under World Athletics. So you have World Athletics, then NACAC, and then Belize.
Where does the Sports Council come in?
The Sports Council is a quasi-government, right? So while we report to Sports Council in terms of finances. We are supposed to give them an audited report every year as part of the NGO and the Act of 2011 or so on and so forth, the Sports Act of 2011. We have to report to them in terms of that. We look to Sports Council for support because they get a certain amount of funding from the ministry in terms of like local organization. And when we want to use the Marion Jones Stadium, we need to work with Sports Council and also helping them organize officials for certain meets that they're responsible for holding, like the primary school championships.
In your estimation, what are the conditions at the Marion Jones Stadium like? Are they up to par with what is required to do the proper training to create an athlete?
Well, let me put it like this. While the facilities are a lot to be desired of, but there's always a but. The facilities are not what determines the level of our training and or athletic success. Has very little to do with it. And I'll give you point in case. The Jamaican coaches that we were looking to bring here for this year, but possibly, hopefully for next year, they would never train on that track. Even if it was the greatest track on the planet, they would never use it. They will find a park, they will find grass, and that's where they will train. Point case number 2. Everybody knows who my son Dimitri Myers is and my children. We don't train on a track. We won't see a track till maybe 6 months into the season. We train on a grass. We train on stairs, stadium stairs. We run up and down the stadium stairs. We use resistance bands for weight training and so on and so forth. We don't use a track. And this is just my son. Now, another point case number 3. While my children are distance runners, I personally train 400, 200 meter athletes. I have trained 5 or 6 athletes that have competed in Carifta, U20, and the World Championships for Grenada, 2 for Trinidad, and 1 for the Bahamas. Me. And they train in a park. We don't ever see the track.
Were you involved in the training of this guy that went to the Olympics?
No.
You had no part in his training?
No part in his training.
All right, let me welcome, first of all, Joe Hosokawe to the show. Joe, good evening. Welcome. Say something, I can hear you.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, are you hearing me?
All right.
Yes.
I hear
You're not seeing it so good, though. You need to adjust your camera a little bit.
Well, that's not a bad thing. But yeah, straighten up that. Gregory, I noted that in 2022 you had some problems initially getting into the association, but they eventually accepted your application. What's the situation with that? And I note that you have a position as press officer almost, as opposed to official trainer. What's the deal with that?
So the role that I was elected to, and eventually elected to, was the public relations officer. It was the only opened executive spot that was available. I put my name in the hat. Nobody else ran, so I was elected. So that's how I became an executive on the Athletic Association. Now, in terms of my 2022, again, they held a high resistance into even letting me into the association. At that time, I was not a member of the association, so I was free to say what I wanted to and how I wanted to the press. For example, reason why this is now an issue, because we have a long-standing rule, and it's the policy of World Athletics not to bring the sport of athletics into disrepute, not to bring our private matters into the public forum. So hence the reason why this is now an issue. So, but in 2022, when I was not a member, I made it very clear within the public that the powers that be in the association, and some of those persons are still on this executive, were vehemently against me being in the association because, 1, I have a platform, and 2, I have legitimacy within this realm of track and field. Now, in 24 years of coaching, at a very high level, and at the highest level, I have garnered my own share of colleagues and friends at the highest levels in this sport. And what troubled me then and still troubles me now is that how is it that I have the respect, not only as a coach, but as a human being and as a man with integrity in this sport, but yet my own people reject me because I speak the truth.
But you're not a coach. You're not hired as a coach. But you seem to have extensive experience in that area. Why would they not want you to be a coach?
Well, I can't answer that. Now, the association, me as an executive on the association, my role is not to coach. While I'm on the coaching committee, these are things that need to be agreed upon by the executive. Being that our executive is disjointed at this present moment, the powers that be feel that
but
there
if
are
that's
other
your
persons.
strength, if that's your strength, Gregory, why would you not be doing that as opposed to?
Well, I do coach. But I am not appointed as the national coach of Belize. I coach privately. I coach my sons. I coach other individuals outside of Belize. I'm responsible for getting these young people their scholarships and sending them off to good coaching, the people I trust to coach. But the reality is, if they stay in Belize, there's nobody has proven to this date that they have been capable of coaching young athletes to an international level.
I see one of your initial projects was to try to improve the facilities around the country. How did you go on that? How did that
Well,
progress for you?
we are hard still working at that at present, and I'm not at liberty to give all the details because things are still in progress. But we already have had an engineer. The president was able to negotiate an engineer to come out and do the primary study in order to upgrade the facilities at Marion Jones. The next step, and it's a process, right? So you have to get the engineer out, then you have to get after the engineer, then you get your case studies done, and so on and so forth. So we're in the process. The hope is by the end of next year we have a track down at Marion Jones. In terms of a larger facility, that is while our association is busy being disgruntled with me being me, it is absolutely necessary for us to be a unified association in order to make progress on a larger facility. I've said that from day one. But why should the persons that I have relationships internationally, professionally, want to come to Belize to invest hundreds of millions of dollars into a facility when the association is actively trying to get rid of me? So we're at an impasse. So it seems to me that they're more concerned about what I expose about or ask the questions, because all I'm doing is asking questions. And those questions seem to be bothering certain persons. So their emotional and personal discrepancies are more important to them than the ensuring a good future for our athletes in Belize and our young people. So
how do we get a
long and short of
reset?
it.
How do we get a reset on that so that we could bring things into harmony and move together with some unison and some understanding? How do you have any suggestion how you could work that?
That's a tough one. I'm not sure. It may come down to where it's either me or them. I'm not sure exactly how that all will play out, but there are constitutional measures that must be taken, and my hope is that we can,
I mean, you're giving me an insight into that there's some problems, but I don't know what the problems is, and we're hearing it only from one perspective, so I'm not quite sure.
Do you have the ear or support of anybody that can help in this situation? Have you spoken to the minister?
So our association is governed by World Athletics. It is not appropriate for the minister to step in. While I am sure the minister would support me 100%. It is not appropriate for the minister to step in and adjudicate any of these things. We have a process. right? And part of that, the process should not be a process of public opinion, but it has ventured to that. Uh, Part of this process would be, since they've put it in the public, we have a person that has no ties to Belize, that is pressing this, right? And is one of the persons that, unfortunately, we had no idea had issues that needed to be held accountable. That was brought to the forefront by their own doing, and now that person is the person leading the charge on trying to get rid of me, because the accountability is going to come squarely on their shoulders. So, and look, we want to be able to be harmonious and unified and all these things, but the reality is that we have to come to accountability first. There's
For
no
what duration are you on this commission right now, and how do they have the election that
till
puts you in
2026?
position?
It's a 4-year
Okay.
cycle.
Okay.
I am in my position until 2026, until there's a new election.
Okay.
They can't just push you out. They can not like you, but can they vote you out, or would that vote of no confidence affect you also?
Well, I'm not going to get into the details of the vote of no confidence, because we're having an SGA this weekend, and that will be litigated there. But I can tell you that they could vote me out. It could, but there's a process that it has to happen. Just like any other thing in any other jurisdiction, the law of natural justice must always ride supreme, right? And these things are constitutionally put into our association, into all associations within World Athletics, to ensure that you can't just vote somebody out just on a whim. You have to go through the process, right? So, and you know what? The truth, like you said, G Mike, is the truth and will always be the truth. And when it gets to the point where the truth must be litigated, the truth will be on my side.
We saw one person go to the Olympics. Looking down the road, do you see potential in Belize for us to do better than we did there? Because certainly even that one did not do well. Do we have the potential to do better?
100%. I could tell you right now, the amount of talent that we have in Belize is undeniable. Talent is not our issue. What is the issue is that there's not anybody who has been proven to administer the training necessary to get to this point. And training is not just, I went and I have this certification and that certification. Proof is in the pudding. You could read 100 books. You could read every book in the world, but if you don't know how to apply those books, it don't mean nothing, right? So, but as far as the talent is concerned, we have the talent. I could tell you right now that there are at least 4 young people already on that Olympic journey. One is Hawass Mejia, who is actually here training with me as we speak. Obviously, my son Dimitri, his projection and progression has met every road mark, milestone to make the Olympics in 2028, to make the Olympic standard, where they're not just a selection, they're a standard. They make the standard, they go. Also, you have Brooklyn Little, who is currently ranked 109th in the world, where she was not too far from making the Olympic standard as it was, and she's also 16, the same age as my son. There's several others. Kaylee Magana, she's at the University of Houston. If she continues to progress, she may very well be an Olympian in 2028. And then you have Kirill Arnold, whose father, who is Belizean, but never was afforded the opportunity to represent Belize. He also is, he's the same age as Dimitri. He also is on a progression trail. And I'd be remiss to not include Jalen Jackson, who is a recent graduate of UCLA, and Lydia Troop, who is a recent graduate of Georgia Tech. Lydia Troop was our highest ranked female athlete last year, and if she chooses to continue to train, she would definitely be a viable Olympic candidate for 2028. So the future is bright, and we have some good young people. In fact, the 2 young people that I'm sending to Jamaica, they are, if once they get there, as long as they assimilate in and they are able to train the way that I know they can compete at, they too will be on that list.
Yeah, I think Mr. Castillo is asking how many people for the committee, other than the athlete that attended, went from Belize. I believe that's what he
Only one.
asking.
Only the president went
The president went along with
with the athlete.
so there were only two people that
Correct.
went on that. Interesting. I thought there were more.
No,
Now,
the other. So it's the Olympic Committee. So the Olympic Committee is mandated to that the like they have to send several officials from the Olympic Committee, because one person is responsible for like the meetings. The next one is responsible to be there for certain votes and so on and so forth. So there's certain mandated officials that must go from each country. Whereas athletics, depending on the amount of athletes we send, will determine how many people we send.
so your expertise is primarily in the track and field area, right? Right?
That is
Because
correct.
all the other sport disciplines and whatnot would be outside of your purview. They would not be a part of what you
Well,
are.
I mean, yes and no. I played competitive football for a long time. My father was a professional footballer with the Cosmos. So I have my experience in football. I also, at one point in my young life, played on the national softball team in 2000 with Jude Lizama and the Hurricanes. So I've divvied into other sports and performed noteworthy, I would assume.
How do we stand in those areas? Do you see any room in the future for us to expand in that area?
Well, I would like to see Belize expand into like how we picked up rugby. Baseball needs to be picked up in the country. I fully support the initiative to get baseball in Belize. I think that's a huge untapped resource. There's so much money moving around in the Central American countries and in Latin America. There's no reason we shouldn't be tapping into that resource as well. The logistics behind that, I think maybe if you talk to Jude or Carly Flores, they could probably give you a better insight on that. In terms of football, honestly, my entire, I'm a little bit closer to softball and baseball because that was, my first love as a child. But my primary focus on a daily basis is athletics. So to speak on the status of football in Belize, I'd be doing a disservice. Other than, I'm sure in terms of training and organization, we could do a better job because I
Well,
believe that's the key to success.
I know, Mr. Myers. What do you think about the cricket team? Belize is it has really good, really good cricket players. And we're not tapping into cricket. Cricket is a big business as well, and it's becoming more popular. Especially here in America, it's becoming very popular. I'm sure you know that just outside of New York, in upstate New York, they opened the New York opened its first big cricket. I don't know, a stadium field.
Stadium.
Club, yeah.
A multi-million-dollar place, and they're hosting events and tournaments there now. So I just want to know, would cricket be something, because it's a traditional type of sport in Belize? Would we be able to even afford to send a cricket team?
Well, I tell you what, I don't know if anybody's ever watched the Kevin Costner movie Field of Dreams, right? There was a saying in there, right? If you build it, they will come. And I believe wholeheartedly that rings true. If you build a major stadium, cricket stadium, of course, a cricket stadium is 100,000 people in a stadium. Look at an island like Grenada. Grenada has an international caliber track and field and football stadium, and an international caliber 100,000 seat cricket stadium. Grenada don't have 100,000 people, barely have 100,000 people, but yet they build a stadium. But when the international teams come in, when India comes in, or Barbados comes in, or Trinidad comes in, they come with their people, right? If we built an international level football field, and just because the field is international doesn't mean the stands are international. There's there are regulations by FIFA. This part I could talk about. There's regulations by FIFA and regulations by World Athletics for track and field and regulations from ICC with cricket that mandate that you must have a certain size, VIP area that has to be certain distances away from the crowd, and so on and so forth. And if you were able to build one of those stadiums or two of those stadiums or a complex that you can attract international teams to come to Belize. Belize is the only English speaking country in Central America. Every team from around the world would be glad to come to Belize and be able to have international friendlies with all the Central American countries and the neighboring Caribbean countries that could get to Belize. But if you build it, they will come. And if you build it, that would you show a major cricket match in Belize, or you get it international friendly in Belize with, like, let's say America or Canada or somebody. That whole fan base will come down and create excitement. Then you have our young. Then you make sure you have a certain amount of that stadium reserved for our Belizean people to go and experience. That's how you build excitement. Because we could talk about it all we want, but until
Well,
you
it's
show me, they're not going to do it.
right. There's a lot of marketing involved and to build the enthusiasm and the excitement with sports. I mean, and sports in Belize is and it's an industry that's not tapped into. I see the tennis association is trying to make waves as well. They had a small little tournament last week, as a matter of fact, not too large, and I mean, there's somehow we as Belizeans have to figure out how we can make athletics, not only a profitable but also a very good industry for all of us. I mean, we have kids that are very talented, as you've said before, and some of these students just need an opportunity.
Mhm. Well, I tell you what, with training, and I'll put this with the training and opportunity. Opportunity is great, but the opportunity must be consistent, right? If you're going to be successful in track and field, and I'm sure all the other disciplines in the world are coming to the same point, the level and the amount of effort, time, and dedication that must be given in order to be successful is phenomenal, right? It's same thing like with cycling. You're not just going to jump on a bike and get, oh, I'll give you the opportunity for go ride uh, 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 cross country. You could get the opportunity all you want. If you did not put in the work required to be successful at that level, all the opportunity in the world is not going to do you any good. So we have to raise our level of training, and it brings me back to my point with with all the persons who have been training so far. Obviously, it hasn't worked to this point. So what do we need to do to fix it, right? And
Yeah.
somebody had mentioned about Raja Stadium. Raja Stadium is something that is near and dear to my heart. The Raja Stadium Cultural and Physical Club, they have done amazing things, and they still do amazing things. But Raja Stadium is in the middle of Belize, the middle of Belize City. The chances of us making Raja Stadium a major stadium is the logistics aren't there. So it would be better if we made that into a training mecca for our kids in the inner city and let every city, town or city or municipality have that. Same thing with the MCC. MCC should Melrose Cricket Club. Those are the things that we should be able to, go back and see, look at our history and see what was it for, and try to uplift it in that same breath, right? So those are the things that I think that are, you know
Well,
key in order to us getting better.
much is made about sports as a deterrent to crime. What do you think about that? Because
Hundred
certainly,
percent.
I
So
believe. Yeah, go ahead.
I love that you asked that question, right? So you see Sean Gill that went to Olympics, and I said this several times in the last couple of weeks on the different shows that I was on. Let Sean Gill be the example in terms of being a student athlete. Okay, so maybe he didn't run to everybody's expectation or his own expectation at the Olympics. But nonetheless, Sean Gill is a licensed and educated bachelor degree engineer. He's coming back home to give something back to the country. So, in terms of crime and education, it is proven that athletics and sports and physical activity, the more you have it indoctrinated into your education system, and you move and you make it a part of your curriculum, a major part of curriculum that is required, not as a privilege but as a right, you see definitive increase in behavior, reduction in crime, and increase in mental capacity and output, right? A point in case, my son Dimitri and Daniel and my daughter, they're A+ students. Every one of my kids on my team. And mind you, they get up 5 o'clock in the morning and go run for an hour. Then they go to school. Then they come home for school, do their homework. Then they go back to practice 5 o'clock in the evening, 12 hours later, and go run for our next hour and some change. With all of that time invested into physical activity, they're still A+ students. And Lord knows they don't have the time afforded to them to have that extra time for study and this and that. But because their mental acuity is exceptionally better, they're able to perform better.
Now, I saw there were a couple of students that you facilitated with scholarships, or you were looking for some students to send to Jamaica. Did that materialize? Did you send?
Yes and no. So, in the beginning, at the Carifta Games, young Jaden Williams was offered a scholarship to Jamaica College. In that same games, I was able to negotiate with the head coach at the time 2 other scholarships. In June or July of this year, ISSA, which is the Intersecondary Schools Association in Jamaica, came up with a new rule that said that each high school could only have 6 international athletes. So with the 6 international athletes, Jamaica, for instance, Jamaica College, which had offered the scholarships, they had 16 or 18 scholarship athletes on their rolls. They had to send home 12. Calabar had to send home 10. Kingston College had to send home several. So their scholarships were obviously reneged on because they were not afforded any other scholarships. In the meantime, so this is the yes part. I was able to find a school, St. Elizabeth's Tech in Jamaica, that had a few slots open, and I was able to negotiate those athletes getting their scholarships for tuition and books. We still are in the process of finding their room and board, which is approximate $3,600 US for the year. But we're going to make that happen somehow, some way, with the help of our partners and people who invest with us into these young athletes like Rogers Stadium and the Minister of Sports and the Minister of Tourism, who's helped greatly. These things are going to happen, and with our private partners that we're trying to establish within the country, in the diaspora, and in Belize, right? And that was one of the great helps, great things that came out of the Los Angeles Summit. We were able to make some more connections so that we can make these things possible for these young people.
So, what kind of plans do you have, and what type of plans does the association have to bring young people and high school and such elementary school into some level of first involvement and then competition and participation?
Well, the first thing is that we have we have a proposal on the table to do a municipal talent search, where we would go to each municipality, one per weekend, and evaluate the talent that's there. And once we're done with the talent search, then we would come together as a selection committee of some sort, and we would determine which young athletes we feel would be best suited to bring into one high school, like a pilot program. So that's just a proposal we have on the table. We've come to a little standstill with some of the the things that's going on with the association at the moment. But that's a proposal that the president and I have come up with, and we're trying to hopefully get off the ground for maybe next year. Now, one of the things that I personally have done with my colleagues in Jamaica and here in the States is that we were attempting for this September, which proved to be just a little bit too ambitious, to have 3 of Jamaica's best coaches come to Belize to teach and to coach full time. We hope that we can get that done for next year. Obviously, there's no guarantee on that. We're still trying to negotiate the details. But that's my goal. That's what I'm doing. That's what I'm actively trying to accomplish in order to what I can do, with the things that I have, the resources that I have garnered over the years, in order to help our young people in Belize, right? The kids that are here in the States, they're getting the appropriate training wherever they are, right? But the kids that are in Belize, those are the ones that we have to focus on in order to get them the necessary coaching and culture and organization within a team structure, because the association can't be the coach, the distributor. Or the association's job is to sanction, to train coaches and officials, and to host the national championships. That's the function of the association. The schools, the clubs, those are the ones that have to take the onus on the everyday training of these athletes. While the association can help, it is not the job of the association to train athletes every day. So that's one of the things that I personally am working on, to bring them in where they're coaching at a school, that we could possibly funnel these athletes to that school or a set of schools, since there's 3 coaches coming, 1 in each school. And then that way, hopefully we could raise the level of not only participation, but competition between schools, right? So that's what I'm personally trying to do.
So I'm sensing some issues with you and some of the people in that organization. Is there a light at the end of this tunnel? Is there any hope that this will work out and everything will be all right?
There's always hope. It's not for lack of trying, I could tell you that. But I will say that, you can't demean somebody's integrity and character because you don't like what they're telling you. That's called defamation of character, right? While they may be accusing me of the same thing, I hold no apologies for telling you the truth. And I will never not tell you the truth. I've built a career on being truthful, even when it was at my own detriment, which I've done several times in my career as a coach. So with that being said, there's hope. I always have hope. And there is a plan. There's always a plan. But I am not going to sit by quietly while people are demeaning or impugning my integrity and character. I'm not going to stand by and do it.
Well, we'll be here. We had you slated for the first hour. Is there any particular thing that you would like to get out there that you'd like people to hear? Is there any way people can help? Is there something we should be aware of in order to stay abreast of what's going on and
I would encourage you to read the things that are being said about me. They put it in the news. They said that I'm a nepotist. I am putting my kids before the athletes of Belize. They're saying that I demean some of the athletes in the association because I tell them the truth, and they said that I'm bringing forward issues that that they have caused upon themselves.
But is any of it true? Is what they're saying the truth, or
none of
it is?
No, let me rephrase that. There's always truth in everything, but it's the selective truths that that people tend to tell you. They only give you a portion of it that suits their own narrative. Now, yes, I have told. If you ask me my opinion, hey, Greg, do you think I'm going to make the Olympics? No, I don't think you're going to make the Olympics. I'm going to be honest. Or Greg, do you think I'm going to be a world-class sprinter? No, with all due respect, while I feel that you're a talented young person or such and such and such, I don't think that you're best suited being a 100-meter runner. Most people are not. There are very few of them that ever exist, right? Those are the things that are being mischaracterized as being mean or mean-spirited or so on and so forth. No, in terms of the what I want to get out is the person that is spearheading some of these things, and the persons, because it's not a whole lot of people, but the persons who are spreading these things and giving mistruths are the same persons that are going to be held accountable for their own actions. Hence the reason, get rid of me and you get rid of the accountability. I'm sorry, but Belize is a small place. And, I hear a lot, and I've heard you, G. Mike, say it, and several others. Why are we're supposed to be here to help each other, and we live in a crab in a barrel environment. But we have somebody that is not from Belize, that has no ties to Belize other than come here and work. That has been, we found out that should have never represented Belize. And
Joe,
that's the person that's pushing, trying to get rid of me.
Yeah, if you allow me just a short time.
Say again?
Much of what you have said resonated with me, given my years of experience in sports now. I was the president of the Cycling Association, and I did represent Belize at the Olympics at the Chef de Mission for the country in 1988. I was in Korea now.
Mm-hmm.
And we had two teams. I mean, that's two sports that went athletics and cycling. But I want to leave you with something to think about, because I listened to the concerns that you have said, which I think are very much personal indeed. But I think there's a deeper problem facing us, and not only in sports, but throughout the society generally. And I would like to see a full in-depth diagnosis done of the problems in the case of sports, facing sports in Belize, and try to then find a solution to that problem. Because sometimes we spend a lot of time dramatizing the problems, but we seem not to want to take time out to find a solution.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you said things about talents, and there's no doubt. We have proved that already through testing we have done in Belize, that we do have a lot of talents. But I think the matter is more systemic, in the sense that it goes deep in terms of the culture that we have come to be. At the time when I was in cycling back then, I must give credit to the National Olympic Committee, although some obviously were not pleased with it because they keep perpetrating themselves. But to name a few, like the Ned Pitts and the Martinez and the O'Hibane and them, I thought they did a very good job. I thought men like Evans and David Fonseca, who were head of athletics, were doing a very good job. But we had to really find, it was because we had leaders that were strong in sports. And that was what was bringing us forward, that we went pretty far with sports in Belize. In fact, we were looking to make Belize an international venue for cycling, and we were almost on the stage of Sports Illustrated. So I think it is time for those kind of problems that you are talking about. If we could spend more time looking for the solution, because I think they are there. And I believe they are it's a leadership crisis facing us. I listened to you and I sense the enthusiasm, and apparently the resources that you yourself have within you, that could enhance Belize tremendously. And the petty things that are holding us back, obviously we could be able to find a solution. But let's find a solution to these problems. And I must congratulate you on your efforts and for honoring the positive. That's my few words for this.
Yeah. No, that's very important, because that's what I'm seeing, the same thing, Mr. Cowie. There seem to be issues, problems, some personal, some maybe just inherent in people getting together. But we need to kind of identify a way forward that we could start addressing it. And I still didn't get a sense of how that movement forward needs to be approached.
Well, we have to get rid of the gangrene. Is what we have to do. We have gangrene in our environment, and we need to get rid of it.
It's not the gangrene we need to get rid of. We need to get rid of the cause of the gangrene.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. And you know what? It comes back to accountability. there are things that have happened over the years that are absolutely abhorrent and should never happen in sports. But everybody has swept it under the rug.
Can it be
Swept it under
exposed?
the
Is
rug.
there anybody can expose it? Can maybe you write something about it?
After this Sunday,
After all right,
these things are going to start becoming exposed.
we have to flesh it out.
We've already done internal audits that have exposed the rampant nonsensical behaviors of the money keepings. There's factual evidence of foul play and innuendos that should never happen in sports. In general, just general human being, it should never happen. And those things have been swept under the rug for years.
You're talking about corruption. There's corruption in
Corruption, bad behaviors,
Not that
everything you could possibly think.
Listen,
He's never used to much. How come, yeah.
I want to thank you, Greg, for joining us this evening. I hope that you come back and give us an update on this with some better news that things are going to work out.
They'll work out. They always work out. God has a plan, and the plan is in motion.
Wonderful.
I just have one before he leaves, Chairman. Mr. Myers, one more thing. I just wanted to get a quick update. Where are you guys now with speaking with the Ministry of Education to implement sports in the curricular sense?
Well, that's a very good question. I am on my way to Belize this weekend, and hopefully I will be there with enough time to sit down and finish our conversation with the Ministry of Education in order to implement what we had proposed. It was these same Jamaican coaches that are part of the education system in Jamaica to come and help us write our curriculum for PE in Belize. That is on proposal. We've already gotten some verbal commitments. Now we're working on memorandums of understanding and so on and so forth, and start dates. And the hope is to start for next year, and possibly getting one or two of them in early to start doing the proposals and setting up the curriculums from early next year.
Okay, so you guys are working on a pilot program, which is nice.
Yes.
You certainly can't get no better than Jamaica when it comes to track and field, no?
Not with what we're having. I mean, if you have me to coach the distances and some of the best coaches in the world to coach the sprints, we got it covered. The sprints and the jumps and the throws. So we got it covered.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, sir. We'll see you soon. Come on back sometime, right? All right, guys. Well, we move on. We got our local issues where we have to deal with. Joe was on the news as they highlighted a snippet from the show last week. Apparently these people are listening, so Greg, you have to be more careful now with the things with the throat, you know. We know the cast on aspersions and whatnot. You might mute, by the way, Joe.
Spurgeon.
Joe.
The only thing I said is Joe has a good full of head of hair, and I don't know if it's real. That's all I said.
Oh, that was way too funny.
Yeah. Joe.
So we leaked the audio and video, right?
Yeah. You're getting the feedback, Joe? Did they call you into the back room and ask you some questions?
No, that would not be appropriate of them to treat me with such dignity.
Oh.
So I will leave that to for another conversation.
Well, one loaded. What do you think about the United Democratic Party? Are they going anywhere? Are we going to have an opposition in place?
They're having more struggle today than they did yesterday.
Man, it's unconstitutional, really, because in particular. And you know, it's funny because I keep going back to this 2 weeks ago when I said to Greg, and the people are doing well so far. No problems to speak of. And my boy, what we're seeing now, I saw the Prime Minister today on TV, and his comments were, "Well, I'm done with that. Me no want got nothing else. We're moving forward. That's a done deal." I mean, that is ridiculous. I can't with the objections that you're getting.
That's when people feel they don't have to be accountable to the people that they give that kind of response. There's a much more appropriate response to these type of national issues, but we have never in Belize been able to treat it and the dissent with respect in any way. And it's from both party. It's from both party.
Yeah, but you know, and that's why we need an opposition in place, because you need an option in the event that you have to do something to bring them to their good senses. No, they're apparently not going to do anything on their own. They're not going to say, well, you know, this is the right thing to do, so make we do it. They have to be held accountable.
Mr. Chairman, what I would have liked indeed is to perhaps just give quickly my overview of what transpired, in the sense that here we were on a week ago, and we had Mr. Petio who was on, and of course we had the leader of the opposition strongly objecting to what was happening in the case of the UB hospital, or the hospital, I must say. And evidently, that itself was able to bring forth people to go to a demonstration, however small it may be. But at least what happened on Monday was that the government had a press conference. What I would say that I found a little bit disappointing is that, knowing that they had come to the point of where they were able to get the government to have a press conference, I thought that by then those who were opposing the conduct would have come more forthrightly to identify what they see as the real problem.
Right.
The problem, and I think it's about time that we get back right now and ask yourself what really happened. The thing about it, when I made my comments that last weekend, based on what I know then, that I felt that the government had an obligation to come to the people to explain the change that was being made. Now, I also mentioned, to my recollection, that there could be a legal matter, meaning that there could be legal implications for what was done. But in the event that it is not legal, evidently it could have been ethical also. But when they went to the press conference, the press, I was a press conference.
Right.
I didn't get the press coming forward to try to identify what they saw as a legal problem. And then you had the experts on the government side, the Commissioner of Lands, you had the gentleman Sanjay from BWSL to deal with the pond.
Water.
You had the Commissioner of Lands to deal with the valuation. And then you had somebody from the Ministry of Health giving reasons why they had to move. And of course, you had the minister himself at the beginning trying to justify what they did.
Joe, Lisa, do me a favor and mute your mic when you're not speaking, because we're getting a feedback and I see your picture jumping. So it seems to, yeah, thank you. Go ahead, Joe.
No, I don't want to just point out two areas. That I get the impression that at the end of the press conference, that the members of the press seem somehow satisfied. Because one did say, and rightly so, I must justify what he said was, he said, well, why didn't you all come before and tell us this? So I'm saying then that this matter, even though there was this very, I would say, vocal and very quite vociferous to objection, even though there were not many people, I say about 100. But there were two things that I thought that would have been brought out. One, in fact, is that you had gone to the Parliament to seek permission to get a loan and to build a hospital. And it left us with the understanding at the time, to my knowledge, that it was to be built on the UB campus. But it was also known too that the government was to open the School of Medicine.
Right.
And they had already appointed the dean for the school, which is the girl, Dr. Lisa Johnson. Though on the 8th of August, Dr. Lisa Johnson did that inauguration on the campus and telling everybody, well, yeah, this will be the School of Medicine. Now, the School of Medicine doesn't necessarily mean it's a hospital. It's a School of Medicine. But it was understood by us at that time, and I supported it 100%, that the hospital would be built where the School of Medicine would be, because the university would be using then the hospital as a training ground for the internship and for the School of Medicine. So I am saying then that if you had changed your position because you found that the land subsequently was not suitable, then yes, you had an obligation to at least inform the public. But what I consider to have been even something that stood out and never did come to the press, or the press never mentioned it, is that there is the Finance and Audit Reform Act, which comes from the Constitution, the section that deals with finance. And we have to ask ourselves now, did the government comply with the Finance and Reform Act? In other words, let's say that there was good reason for not building the hospital where they wanted to build. And the government felt compellingly that it must go somewhere else. The point is that the government went into procurement. That was procurement, and the procurement is governed by the Finance and Audit Reform Act. And nobody questioned whether the procurement was in accordance with the act. So I'm citing these issues, and then to maybe just, bring to the notice of the public generally that the problems facing us is that too many of us are not sufficiently knowledgeable.
That's the problem. It seemed from what you're saying and what I saw, Joe, the press at that time and from the conference that I saw asked two questions. And it seems to me that there is a lot of issues going on with this. The government did not present a sufficient case for changing, because it seems like they were extending some stuff with 6 miles. There's no place that would be 6 miles in Belmopan that would cause this to make a change.
I think
they failed. Let me just finish this other point. They failed to talk about the sewer condition. They talk about runoff going into that particular area. And one guy just flippantly said there's no smell, when everybody knows that definitely there's a situation with smell. We're building a hospital in an environment that will not be hospitable to pedestrian, that will not be hospitable to gathering. You can't put a little park in that area where people could gather and just relax. Whether you're the hospital worker, whether you're the nurses, the doctors, the patients visiting the area, it just seems to me that it's a totally inappropriate. They have already seemed to have purchased the land, so they may have to use that for some other purpose. But the inappropriateness of the location for the teaching hospital, one, it's not being on the campus as had planned, but also the actual presence of the encumbrance of the sewer disposal or treatment facility is a big problem. I think that stops that.
I think what happened is that the government controlled the narrative on that, and there are so many other areas, and you're right, Gregory, there are many aspects to that weren't addressed, and then the press wasn't. I don't think they were there.
They're not skilled to ask the appropriate questions.
They followed the narrative, which was, all right, we move the thing and we want to justify the move. But why? Why did you move? And listen, first of all, you have the University of Belize there already. They have water. They have sewer facilities, because they're not primitive over there. All you have to do is build it close enough that you can tap into that.
Well, there's no problem that you will have to expand them to deal with a hospital. A hospital, has significant demands for water and electricity and all those things.
Yeah, but you don't have to go 9 miles like they're
saying.
Exactly. That's their point is, well, we have to go 9 miles to get water, 9 miles to get light. No, you already have that over there. Tap into it.
Mr. Chairman, I fully agree with the concerns that you are expressing. But I felt that what is happening is that we can get distracted from what is the real problem.
Yes.
And let
Yes.
me look at it first from a generic position, not whether it's PUP or UDP. If government is to be accountable to the people, any government, we must understand what it means to be accountable to the people.
Mm-hmm.
We just cannot, out of our own objection, maybe not liking the government that it is, maybe not being a supporter of the government that it is, simply get emotionally hooked up. And then what happens? We make a lot of noise, and at the end of the day, there might be nothing wrong legally. So I would have thought that by now they would have been able to identify what they believe was legally wrong. Now, the issue of how they went about doing it might be unethical. But again, we have to ask ourselves, because the points that you are raising just now are very valid points. But using those points doesn't make it illegal.
But Joe, also though, just because one support the government does not mean you have to agree with everything they do and say, and that you can't have an objection. So just you're not objecting because you're not a member of the government, but just because you're a member doesn't mean you can't object. So and I don't know that what you're saying, that you have to go legally. Everything you have to prove that what they're doing is against the law. First of all, $6.9 million is a lot of money. Can we afford that? Now, you just sold this land to somebody 4 years ago for $600,000 and buy it back from them for $6 million. Something seems wrong right there. As where the Prime Minister of Barbados said, the mat ain't matting. And that's the truth. I mean, how in the world can you justify that? And then now you have all this land that will be available to you. The hospital will be a learning institution, also a part of the education of it. How can you justify not putting it there because you just want to buy land from somebody else that obviously is not worth the money that you're spending for it? So you could say, all right, what kind of legal things were violated? What kind of laws were violated? But I think there's a bit more than that.
Well, if they won't respond to the political pressure, because they have no need to. The opposition, as we talk about, is not holding them accountable. Is disorganized, is in disarray, and cannot hold them in any way accountable, because they're fighting their own fight. Then they seem to be off to just create these screen of distractions, saying one thing when the issues at hand are something else. So I do believe that if there is a legal pathway to say that they did not comply with the Finance and Audit Act, and the leader of the opposition said he was going to be looking into those issues, so we would like to know. I'll give him a call at some point and say where we are on those legal issues, because I think it does have to be approached from a legal and from a persuasive portion of the public. The public have had some say, and I think it has to be a sustained effort on the part of the public if they're truly interested in getting some action, because the government unless they get enough pressure, they're going to continue the path they have set out, because it would be kind of mud on their face if they have to back off, and they need enough mud at them to make them realize that the public is truly concerned about this, and it's not going to be just a little breeze.
I was hoping that we could get Nigel to come back and give us an update. Elston Wade is saying BWS claims that the stench is coming from a nearby rum factory. The press should investigate this. Now, I wouldn't doubt that some stench is coming from there, but I believe that some stench has to be coming from that sewer pond. And for this guy to tell us that you can actually swim in there, I think that may slap in the face, no? Are we fools? Then the next one I tell you, listen, they even use them for raised fish. You only have to cook the fish need longer. And I'm like really? I mean, so we the waste right all the time when we had all our cattle, and we had to cook them need longer.
I'm saying to you again, to the benefit of all of us here, that when you raise the issue now about the pond, it's again, the pond to me is a distraction for the reason that when the guy Sanjay spoke, I think he spoke from a point of authority, that the pond should not have been an issue.
The pond is an issue. The pond is an issue.
Just allow me to finish.
But what do you expect him to say?
No, ma, what I'm saying to you, you might see the pond as an issue. Yes, the pond is an issue. Now, here is an expert telling you why it's not an issue. Now, fine, you go continue claiming that it is an issue. The point I'm trying to make is that don't let that be the distraction, because there is something deeper than that. The issue is, did you comply with the Constitution? One, you have the finance section, which the Finance and Audit Reform law gives effect to it. Then you have the Code of Conduct section, which again, did the government conducted itself in such a way so as to leave no doubt in the minds of the people? That is a requirement under the Constitution. So I am saying that when we speak of these things, gentlemen, I agree with the concerns being expressed, but don't get distracted by it, because
I agree. It's a multi-pronged approach. The pond is not the only issue. The prong is
it is one of the issues.
That's correct.
And I don't think it's a distraction, and we're just pointing it out as one of the issues in there.
And the one the public could easily gravitate to, because it creates that annoyance in the community where the people live.
It is obvious.
Could I get another shot at it to show you why it's a distraction? You had the Commissioner of Lands who came to try to justify why he think that the price was okay. You have Sanjay come, an expert again in the field, to show you why the pan should not be. Now, if that is what is the concern, then to me, indeed, I can understand why the press may have just accepted that. But that is not the issue. The issue is not the pond. The issue is not even so much what they paid for the land. The issue, did you go out for tender as required under the Act?
That's correct.
That's the point I'm making. Did you go for the tender? Yeah. No. If you all get distracted, but I mean you all literally, I mean us. If we get distracted by the pond and then bring somebody to explain, that's no problem. Then you get distracted by saying the amount was maybe too high. Then you bring somebody to explain why it's not high. And then some people could leave believing that everything all right.
Yeah. And that's I understand. I understand exactly what you're saying. But Mr. Cowie,
that the government should have done, whether I'm talking in a generic sense, any government, you know for a fact that we had a case before by the Minister of Finance taken to court for a judicial review for the violation of the Finance and Audit Reform.
Yes.
Because that is one of the acts that is mostly being violated. Secondly, the Code of Conduct is one of them that we are not giving enough attention to. For example,
but that's the hardest one to kind of hold to. That's, because they have such discretionary power. That is really the hardest one to stick.
Whether it is hard to hold on to. It's a matter to ask ourselves, where is it we believe they may have gone wrong in terms of their requirements under the law?
Yes,
Secondly, ask ourselves, if there was no violation of the law, then did they violate some ethical standards which were not required under the Constitution? And those are the issues. But what they do to us, and the points that you all are raising, or anybody for that matter, about the pond, about the violation, those are legitimate points. I'm not saying that they aren't. But you see how they come and they dismiss those points.
But that's what I expect. And when right now we haven't had a legal challenge, that's something that, as I said, the leader of the opposition, I'm hoping that the unions and others will address.
So we have to leave that to the legal experts.
Yeah.
Mario just said that it'll take the people to save the people, and that they don't get involved, that they blow over like on Lee Breeze. And he's perfectly correct. Now, the thing is that for us to appeal to the people, you have to go to the things that they can grasp right away and gravitate to. Yes, indeed. So the pun that suddenly can understand, the cost of the land that suddenly can understand, the move that was not necessary is a part of what they can understand. Certainly there are areas there that we could look at from the legal aspect. Where did they go? Where did they not comply with certain regulations in order? That will have to come from the experts that can do that. But the people themselves, you need to come to them with the bread and butter issues that they can understand.
Well, let me give that bread and butter issue. When the people believe indeed that something, I think the price of that land is too high. Something is wrong.
Mhm.
Now, remember that there is legislation to have avoided that. So, if the people believe the price was too high, if they had followed the Finance and Audit Reformer, and
Yeah.
you had gone out,
Competitive bidding. Yeah. Yeah.
then you would not have been able to say the price is too high, because then you've gone through the process of tendering, whether
Right.
that the open tender, the selective tender, or the limited tender, any one of them. And that's the point that I'm making, that okay, which government it is, we have to begin to understand what is it that we expect the people who we elect, what is it we expect them to do to be accountable in accordance with the law.
You know, there's another point too, because and I hope you don't think this is another distraction. But I look at these two, and if there are two Chinese people who own this land, we are putting a lot of restrictions on our diaspora as where they could do or not do. But it seems like people could just come in and buy this country 1 acre at a time if they have to. I think there should be some restrictions against who can buy land, how long you can live here, what you have to do with the land, and within a certain period of time, develop the land. And you cannot sell it back for the astronomical profits without doing anything to it, not even cutting one blade of grass. Something wrong with that, and you can call that an instruction if you want, but I think that's something we need to look at also.
Well, I don't think that is an instruction. I will use that again to show you what I'm talking of. I think you're looking at what is circumstantial evidence. And when you look at the circumstances that surrounding the transactions, and you see suspicions about certain people who are involved, those are evidence that should raise eyebrows. So therefore you ask yourself, but wait, did you apply the law? Did you go according to the law? Then you could raise that question, because if they had applied the law, it doesn't matter whether they were Chinese, it doesn't matter whether they buy cheap from government and sell it back high, because that is the law allows them to do that. So I'm saying,
but maybe the law should not. That's
no, well,
what I'm saying.
No, well, you have to understand the law, because the law cannot allow government to sell lands at market values. Otherwise, the people who want to buy government land are only the wealthy people. So therefore, one of the weaknesses in it, and yes, we can deal with the weakness, but not by letting government sell at market value. But you can amend the law, which should have been done, that if you say that we sell your land for so much, and for any reason the government needs back land, then you can make it such that you will pay them what they pay the government, plus whatever interest had acquired on it. And you can do that. But once you don't have that, under the law, it's the committee appointed by the minister advise the government what price to sell at, but it cannot be market.
What interest would acquire on it like that if they buy it?
No,
because I can understand if you put an investment into it.
No, the money has time interest.
I'm saying the amendment that needs to be done to the law. I am proposing this as an amendment.
No, I understand what you're saying. I understand perfectly what you're saying.
If government sells you the land for 100,000, 5 years after you realize, I need that land and I want to buy it back.
And they didn't do anything
They
to it.
want to sell you that land now for $2 million. If you amend the law to say that when the government, if for any reason, have need to acquire the land for public purpose,
this is what the structure and payment
the government
will be.
The price they paid plus whatever appreciation was done.
Yep.
Now, when instead you use the Commissioner of Lands to do a valuation to determine the value of that land, I myself have some differences with the method he used, because we do valuations. That's what we are training.
His thing was way off, because
the point I'm making is that it doesn't matter to me whether you had it in or not. What was important is whether you had followed the law.
You know,
the law, and then the tender for the land we don't need.
This individual, and he has come to Belize and made a lot of money. He's working out at the free zone, I understand. He's filtering. But a person like that could have said, boy, I don't want a hospital. Listen, pay this off of my mom. I want to grant this land for the use of the hospital.
Yeah, but people aren't like that. So I don't expect that. No, I don't expect that. I don't expect that. What and we know that.
No, there's conscience. I don't know about that, Greg. There's conscience. I mean, for
where have
for
you seen it? Where have you seen it?
right here.
Where?
There's a lot of big medical facilities here that are named after people here in the United States.
Who
There are
give
people
the land?
living
N-
who
No.
give money and
Yeah,
who
but
give the
that's not
land.
That's
relevant.
different. That's different.
If a
That's
person
different.
doesn't
But those
want
are people,
if
those
a
are
person doesn't want to be
contributing. We don't
philanthropic
have
and you don't
that
want to
No.
give
from the
and
ancient
you're not
Sindhis, and
claiming
I
for
think
that.
that's another issue.
We
Yeah,
need
that's different. That's different. If
yeah.
people have private land,
You
they're
can't make
entitled.
them. You can't make them do it. Let me
Yeah,
say this.
exactly.
I didn't say make them do
You
it.
cannot like them for not doing it.
Yeah,
What can
yeah,
you do?
yeah.
You can dislike them for not doing it. I'll tell you
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
And then
If
put
private
down.
land, if you own private land, you could and you could sell it for whatever you want. But we know, I think the feeling of many people is that this land deal is not what it is. That somehow some of this money is going to revert itself back into campaign
And they
financing
don't
funds.
spend most of the money. Probably that's why they
So
can't reverse it. They can't.
so that's the issue. So with all that we're saying and the precautions and what if this vehicle did not exist that they could get the money that they're asking to give to this guy, the choice would have been somewhere else. So
You
this is
know
just this just appears. We don't know with any real certainty.
what you're saying, though, Joe, is what makes this thing continue the way it is. Because you are suggesting that people should not. We just have to go along with it. Because if they not broke no law and they write the law in a way that they could do what they want to do and they got
Exactly.
flexibility, they could stretch it how they want. So but at the end of the day, maybe we need to look at some of these laws. We think about look at the Constitution, for Christ's sake, which is the supreme law of the land. We must look at these laws and see. I don't think foreigners should come in and be allowed to just accumulate their large among our lands there and not do anything with it. Just sit down there, speculation.
That's
and
a
sell it
relatively
later on.
small piece of land, though, Mr. Chairman. So I don't have a problem with foreigners, and I don't know if that man has citizenship or what his status is in Belize. But that's a relatively small piece of land. I think what we're
For $6
upset
million,
about
for $7
what
million.
we're upset about is the exuberant price that they are paid. And as I said, we feel that if it was any other plan or any other deal, any other individuals, and for any other conditions, that would not have been the price that would have been paid. So this seemed to be a set aside, separate kind of situation that's an aberration to any normal deal we'd have expected from our government.
But to show us something, look at what Channel 7 came up with that evening, yesterday evening. It was Channel 7 that brought it into the news with giving the quote from what I said on this show. And I had no problem with it because I thought he did a quote of exactly what I said. But what Channel 7 did, Channel 7 had an interview with Minister Marla, the Minister of Tourism. And the Minister of Tourism said that he thinks indeed that the UB, the government should consider maybe putting the hospital at the UB land.
Yes.
And then he said after that, he said, and the Minister of Education, Mr. Fonseca, also believe that they should not disregard the UB land.
Exactly.
So those are two ministers. Then they brought on the third former Minister of Health, that's myself. And they said what I said, and I said something along the same line.
Yes.
That if the intention was to build this thing there and the parliament gave the approval, then I think the government had an obligation to go back and make sure that they do what needs to be done.
Yes.
So to me, there were two present ministers, a former minister, and I am not trying to sounding now that if I know it all, but when it comes to knowing those laws, I have been working with them for over 50 years. And I was a part of the architect of the Finance and Audit Reformer, me and Mr. Godfrey Smith in particular. We were the two that reformed the Finance and Audit Reformer. And all I am trying to get over, particularly the opportunity this radio station or this platform has given us, is that the people of this country needs to get more involved in the democratic process of understanding how they are to be governed. So that indeed, whosoever it is that we elect, and we want to hold them accountable, stop to be using accountability and transparency, and they become just cliches, because nobody really, if you ask them, all right, how can they be accountable? we need to know what it is required of them to be accountable.
Right.
And we need to know what is required of them to be transparent. And therefore, we need to look at the laws. But I agree too. But the laws is there to keep us upright, for those who don't want to be upright. But you also have the code of ethics in the Constitution.
Mhm.
And yes, that one might be a little bit difficult to prove, but it makes it more plain in a sense. In the few words as Mr. Price had once said, he said, conduct yourself in such a way so as to leave no doubt in the minds of the people.
Mhm.
That came out of the code of ethics of the Constitution.
Right.
So to me, for us and for the people out there to express their dissatisfaction with that transaction, I think they were quite in order. What we had to do next now was to make sure now that we follow up with it and we try to find where is it that they were not accountable. And the lack of accountability means that you did not follow the law.
Yeah.
Because
And how,
You know,
we have a Transparency Act.
what do we do when we find that then?
Then to me, I am saying that this is where the people, indeed, once you have a case, a reasonable cause to believe that there has been a violation of the law, then you go to the court. That's what the court is there for.
Yeah.
Why?
That's what we need to learn to do.
You
But
know-
what we are doing, we are getting sometimes too emotionally upset, especially when it comes to this bitter partisan politics,
Yeah.
where one side, once their party is in, when they are out of government, when the other side is in, what they do is corruption.
Mhm.
When they get in, what they do, what they call it then is good governance.
Yeah.
How can it be good governance when one it is and when the other one is in is corruption?
Let me say, I had a big problem when I saw Yellow Man and Alberto Agas out there. I mean, that took away a lot from the credibility of the whole movement.
Exactly.
So, yes, the opposition will jump on board anything like that, but my God, I mean, some people just are not got no shame, because just a couple years ago they were out there on the other side, the defend a lot of the things that we're now condemning. So you have to at least look at that and say, well, you know what? Hold on, I'm gonna sit this one out. We need
No, you can't. You can't tell people to sit stuff out, and that's okay. You
Well,
know.
I think Cameron is making a credible point in the sense that those who are leading the protests
Yeah.
need to be careful who they want at the forefront of that protest.
That's correct. That's correct.
That's true.
correct. That's
That's
correct.
my
That's
point.
correct. That's
Because
I
correct.
have
in
a
the
quick
show,
question, Mr. Joe. Mr. Sam was asking, what is the process to get to have the audit
Audit?
general,
Audit
right? The audit
commission.
general dismiss. What is that process, or how can the audit general be asked to leave or resign their position?
Oh, I don't think the audit general is at fault here.
No, I mean, but isn't that an office of compliance for this purpose?
I
No,
think what we need is
no, the Auditor General is not at this type in time will be brought into it. Who would have been brought into it would have been the
commissioner.
no, not the commissioner. Sorry.
No, the lands commissioner would have
No,
been
no,
brought
no,
in.
I'm talking about under the Finance and Audit Reform Act, where you have to send it to the audit, not the Auditor General.
But doesn't the Senate subcommittee that investigate?
No. All you have to do was this.
Okay.
One, if the government needs to procure goods, and the law tells you clearly up to a certain amount,
Mhm.
then he has to go through a certain procedure.
Mhm.
What has been happening over the years, and I'm talking again in a generic sense, there are thousands of internal controls, and I'm saying literally thousands, because they are there under the Finance and Audit Reform Act. You have the finance orders, you have the store orders, you have several other in the Transparency Act. What is happening is that these laws are not being enforced. So when this government was in opposition, and when they were advised that the then Minister of Finance violated the act, and I said
Right.
this on the show before,
Yes. Yes.
they decided to take it to the court for a judicial review.
Yes.
Then evidently the court found that the Minister of Finance violated the law.
Yeah.
But then it was just a judicial review.
Yeah. Yeah. And he just went back and backtracked everything in the House in following House meetings.
And the lawyers made some money.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That,
But I think you have a good point. We do need to see how we could make a legal case of what was done, and I am hoping that that leg of the stool is still going to be presented by the unions and the opposition party, and any other interested people that could join on to make that presentation.
You know, if
let's look at it.
forget
And
them.
legal opinion that we don't see any evidence of any violation of the law. Then the only thing is left for the people to do is to then come down and make sure that in the future we want you to act differently. And then when you go to the polls, then you decide what to do.
Yeah, but you know, got no
you see,
option.
the concern I do have, whether you're a PUP or UDP or no P at all, is that when we are going to be the judge for a government wrongdoing without going through the proper process, it's not fair either. Whosoever is sitting there, it's not fair for us out here to be casting aspersions at an elected person simply because we have reason to believe that something was wrong. Now, when you have at least some persuadable evidence to suggest that something was wrong, I think we speak out. Okay, which party it is or which side you are.
Agreed.
I don't.
Right. I also. Yeah,
well, crossing individual aspersion is wrong, but but no, I don't think we have done that.
I have not seen that. That's all.
Yeah,
you know,
I've not seen anyone.
You know what I'm saying though? A government. We listen. Forget the small crowd that was out there. If you speak to most people in this country, and that are connected to the country, they will tell you that something is wrong with that deal. Now, you would hope you have a government that has the pulse of the people, that hears what the people are saying, that understands something like this, that would sit down and say, you know what, why this one don't look like he can fly to right, you know, but to bear down your head and say, you know what it is, we go ahead with this, that's so Trumpian. You know, I just don't think that we can allow them to get away with that, and we have to keep speaking out. We can't allow, we can't quiet ourselves.
I fully agree with you, but again, I ask that we have to act in a very responsible way, especially those of us who speak to the general public. The government.
What have we done irresponsibly, Joe?
No, I'm not saying we did anything irresponsible.
Well, then, okay, so then we're already heeding that, right?
No, what I'm saying to you, I'm saying that I believe that the protests, up to a point, forced the government to do something that they should have done before, was to call the press conference.
Yes.
Now, they called the press conference. They had their experts there, and they answered the questions.
No, they answered some questions, but they didn't answer the question. They had the nurse speak. They had the nurse, Mr. Speak about the runoff, but she said the runoff comes from the community. We weren't talking. The concern was not the runoff coming from the community. The runoff was the pond. And then they had the water treatment guy that flippantly said, that it meets international standards and stuff, and he have visited all over the United States, but he did not say that there was no smell there. You know, he kind of just questioned it. Yeah, then we had the lands commissioner says that he wants to go swimming in it. I'm joking. He said that He said that they could swim in it, but he was talking about a different type of treatment.
Then the first asked her if you would go and swim in it.
Yeah.
Listen to me. That was a sham. It was a total sham. What do you expect these people to say? All those people were hired by the government that they're sitting up there defending. I mean, there's nobody there that could have given an objective view. They have their job, then they sing for their supper. Let's be real. And
well, if it was for them to convince the public, I don't think anyone left.
Very poor job.
Correct.
Let me ask you the question. Sorry.
The
I
only
think
thing
the
that
Bible says
I'm very
something.
interested about
Ah,
is where do we go now? So we've paid out 6.9 million for an acquired land. How much debt are we going to continue to consume? I mean, Belize is just one loan after another, one grant after another spent improperly. I mean, the US is giving out grants. Just another grant was given out a week ago for another program. And I'm starting to wonder, where are we going with all of these monies is coming and going, coming and going, but nobody is being uplifted
Accounting,
with,
yeah,
and nobody's accounting for these large sums of money.
yeah.
Well, Sam Gentle says that if Joel is willing, he's willing to work with him, and they could do some kind of accounting for them, and try to see how they could get some
Get some
answers
audits done.
an artist done for that. Yeah,
Well,
I
yeah,
don't
you
know.
have to be certified to do government audit. You can't just do
Well,
government
Joe
audit.
is.
No,
Joe is.
yeah, I know, but the Senate has to pass it and to appoint you to be the
So here we
auditor
go
and stuff.
again. We're
no,
expecting.
I think we are getting these things mixed up.
Yeah.
But let me just clear some matter though. When I said to you that they were asked questions and the people at the head table answered their questions, they did answer the question. No,
Inappropriately
you may not
and incompletely
no,
and untruthfully.
yeah, but if you are saying that, then to me, why is it that the press that was there did not come back after they gave the answers?
They're not trained. It was quite clear that after that flippantly the person asked them, "Are you going to swim in it?" And the guy said, "No, I'm not saying that you'll swim in this one." That they were quite satisfied. Our press is not probing. They'll ask a little question
Exactly.
because they're not
Exactly.
trained. They're not trained.
Accept
they're
the
not
answer.
trained.
Many times the answer is not even the answer to the question they ask.
Exactly.
They
So they
just
asked 3 questions. I heard 3 questions asked in that thing, and I was just totally like, "What is this?" There's no probing questions. There's no follow-up. There's no real
I
question
agree
on
with
the
that. I
issue,
agree.
on the issue of what was
And they will hate
presented.
you for saying so, but I believe that's true.
Yeah.
Instead of looking at it and saying, you know what, maybe boy, we ought to be a bit more aggressive in our pursuits of these truths. But they're not. They just every time the person answer, you know how many times I hear they ask a question and the answer to the question that they ask
It's not
is like way off base. I don't got nothing, but then they grab that and run with it.
Yeah.
That's a distraction.
Right. Mr. Chair, Mr. Mario had posed a question, and he was asking, is there a chapter of Transparency International in Belize, and how do we establish one? We need to, well, he said,
Well,
do
we
need
signed
to
we signed off on UNCAC.
No, you are referring to Transparency International. That's different from UNCA.
Yeah.
So no, we don't. So Belize does not have one. Basically,
I don't know that we do have a chapter of Transparency International. I've heard of it before in other governance, but I don't know that Belize has any association with that.
To the best of my knowledge, not yet. But I was in a group that we were trying to get a chapter of Transparency International in Belize, and then we came pretty close, but somehow others begin to leave, and the matter died there.
It's very discouraging.
We don't have a chapter in Belize.
It is discouraging, but true that Belizeans don't seem to give a damn. They don't care.
People are on survival mode,
Yeah.
and even the ones that are not on survival mode, they're on the taking mode. And so if
they're comfortable in where they are.
Gentlemen, I know you might be tired of hearing me making the reference to Socrates when he had that serious concern about democracy. You give them free speech, but they have nothing to say. What's the use? So I fully support that's the point you made. I think it's a point that we should prepare to talk about, for the reason that the people need to participate beyond the ballot.
Yeah.
That's the key. Go to the polls and vote and then go back home and go about their business. They have to learn to understand how we have to be governed by that constitution.
Yeah.
That constitution is extremely important to us.
Yeah. And you know, when you look at the history of our governance, when we had way back in our early history, when we had the public meetings and such, people were actively involved in their governance. But
That's right.
somehow we have stepped away from it and just
Exactly.
rely on our elected officials to tell us everything and do everything for us.
Well, and pay us a few dollars and quiet us.
Yes.
Yeah, only $50 and everything good.
Yeah.
You could do what you want after that, and we have to look at ourselves with that, man. That there are many of us like that, you know, who stand in a line because they get a few dollars to get in on a line. So
Well, you have the case recently now that came out. I don't know if you all saw the news this evening. So we have another issue now with land acquisition. That is the one with the state bank. And
yeah,
so
Oh, yes.
but
yes.
but if they acquire that in the public good or the public interest, why couldn't they acquire this land in the public interest? And the Barra
Right.
spoken about that. Why not just this? Because hospital is of public interest. It serves a lot of people in the country.
Yeah. Well,
So-
I don't believe in taking private land. And I don't. The point is, I don't believe the placement of the. My concern and is that the placement of where they're putting the hospital is not meeting the national objective. That's my position. It is in the environment where it's not conducive to a public space, right? I can't see them putting a park in that area where that hospital will be. It's going to be a teaching hospital. You will want the students to be able to enjoy that outdoor space. You'll want the families that are visiting, people at the hospital to enjoy that outdoor space. You'll want the staff to enjoy that outdoor space. And if you have that type of smell and contamination that the people talk about 6 months of the year during the rainy season, then it is not. And that's what I'm appealing to the government to kind of look at
But
this
I
for the
wouldn't even-
appropriateness of it.
I wouldn't even go that far because we shouldn't even have to get that far. The land at UB is appropriate. The UB, where it sits now, is accessible. There
Yeah.
are areas you could get there easily. They have all the amenities necessary, all the water, light, and everything. All you just have to do the tap onto what is already there. Because certainly,
Well, infrastructure, Mr. Chairman. I'm an engineer and I design those systems. Right now, I'm doing working on a hospital where it's a $1.7 billion hospital for the UCLA Harbor Replacement Hospital. So I'm very familiar with those type of things. And when you're putting something of that size, whatever infrastructure was there for the UB would not be adequate.
but
to
don't you
still-
have a main water source?
Yeah, but
that
let's say
feeds
you
them?
had a 14-inch. Now, because of this new demand, you may need a 24-inch,
Yeah.
that's
right? So you need to either parallel what you have with another 12-inch or 16-inch to get what you need, or you need to replace what you have had previously. So those are the kind of positions that you're put in. Your electrical infrastructure, you may have had 2 or 3 MVA size distribution equipment. You may now need to put in a 3 or 4 MVA.
And it will cost the millions of dollars that they're
So,
saying.
there's no doubt that there will be costs, but the point of all that is that it is infrastructure development. It's to the public good when you do that versus giving $6 million or $7 million to one individual to put in their pocket. By building up this infrastructure and creating that development, you're, for one, adding to the national development. You're also adding to the development of businesses that will develop that area from where they're saying there are no roads. You'll be building new roads. Businesses will be developed along that area as service businesses to take care of the people that are traveling along the path. Gas stations will be there. All
The
those things. So-
university would benefit. The
Yes,
university
so
certainly.
they're going to be positive development in bringing that money, spending that money, or even more money to develop the land and to put $10 million, $7 million in the pocket of one individual.
Basically, a lot of the grievances from the locals is that that instead of us thinking forward, we keep talking about, oh, we want our kids to be educated, we want our kids to stay, to go study and come back and stay, and stay in the country. We want them to, to develop the country, but you're only developing one set of group of people. And I think this is the problem. That's the grievance amongst the locals.
Yes,
it's that there's only one set of people in Belize in itself that is benefiting from all of these transactions, whether it's private or whether and it's not sitting well. But there's only a majority of us with the background or the knowledge to propel these kinds of conversations, or have the know-how to. Part of the big problem I saw with the protesting is that they needed funds. They needed funds to bring the people out from different places, and they weren't able to get those funds to have buses come in.
It was
very,
quickly organized.
quick.
Yeah,
Correct.
yeah,
And it was very quickly organized. And it's the same thing with the press conference. That press conference was that invitation for the press to meet for the Monday was given 2 or 3 hours before the press took place. So it wasn't as if anyone was truly prepared.
Yeah.
And as a people, as Belizeans, I think we all want to partake in the development. We all want to partake in the investment, but only again, it just seems that only one group of people are benefit from these gains.
I am hoping that the government would have looked at this and said, you know what, and the people this one is not going over well.
I think there's still that chance. I know they have doubled down, but most of the time the cow double down before he backs up, So I'm hopeful that the areas of the legal recourse is still open. I'm hoping that the public still have not sung their last song, and that the protests will continue, and that they will not, and that the press will also, as we described, the third arm of the governance, will readdress some of the issues and come up with some of the shortfalls. The externalities of the property that they have selected is great. It is negative, and so the land at UB offers much better opportunity for the development of the country and for the development of the entire area, and it addresses the promise to the people and to the lending Saudi government that the facility was going to be put on UB land. Where
it went to Parliament. That was what went to Parliament.
Yes.
And Joe made that point. The fact that this is a drastic change, maybe they should have gone back to Parliament and said, listen, adjustment in the plans, no?
That's why I said it on the show before last week. I think that the point that Mr. Morrison is bringing out would have been answered in a cost-benefit analysis study.
Yeah.
With a very valid point, which was raised, I think, either at the press conference or somewhere else.
Yeah.
That if you had spent the 6.9 million to make the UB land suitable, and even if you had to spend more on it,
yes,
the benefit you will get from it will be far more.
Yes.
So what was the answer to that? The answer to that was that, well, yes, they couldn't argue against it because there was no cost-benefit analysis done. Yeah. So what was the answer? The answer is that where this land is, it is more accessible because of the highway.
Yeah, yeah, and you'll save lives, 15 minutes travel.
But my point that I would answer that is that if you tell me it is because it is near to the highway, all right, if it's near to the highway, who is it that will be coming to this hospital?
Exactly.
Why you want it near to the highway, which is the Western Highway, the George Price Highway? Why is it you want it near to the George Price Highway?
Then they should never have promised to put it on UB land and have.
No, but I am asking, you are
Yeah.
building either a secondary or a tertiary hospital. If
Yeah.
your health sector plan, and let's again look at these issues.
Yeah.
The whole
Do we-
idea of the health sector reform was to reduce the need for tertiary levels.
Do we have
So therefore, if you're going to build now a hospital, yes, you're going to destroy the one that is there because you say that is no longer suitable.
Yeah. They said they'll include the secondary and the tertiary care.
Is a secondary and tertiary level already. But I agree, if you want to have one now on the UB land as secondary and tertiary.
Yeah.
The secondary and tertiary hospital is not a place where many people should be going.
Yeah.
It's not it's not a primary care.
Yeah.
It's not a polyclinic then.
Yeah.
Right.
Polyclinic like the one that they just built in Placentia. Even that is a
Mhm.
problem because they built it so far away. It's almost at the airport, 3 miles from the town.
Mm.
In fact, all that was raised too. And then they admitted that fine, that was a mistake made.
Yeah.
But they-
Right.
Yeah, because they have to truck people into it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then that's different because that's a polyclinic.
Yeah.
You cannot use the same argument for accessibility for a polyclinic like you
As
use
your
for secondary and
tertiary and secondary care. Yeah.
My idea, from what I read from what was done and what they were saying in the parliament, I supported it 100%.
Yeah.
Because I believe that the country can be made a health tourism center for the world. I mean, for the region. I think we can.
Mhm.
So I thought that this was a wonderful idea. Spend the money, put the hospital there. You have the School of Medicine,
Mhm.
complemented now by a secondary tertiary level hospital,
Mhm.
where we are looking to develop care that the people doesn't have to go to Merida,
Yeah.
to the States, to Guatemala, etc. Let's reverse it.
Yeah, but also, Mr. Coe, the 15 acres is a relatively small parcel of land for that type of facility that they're talking about, and that's why I believe that the university property is much more appropriate. That later on they're given a certain piece, 50 acres, I think it is, and that seems more appropriate to do all the things they need, especially if we're talking about a training facility. They could put housing, they could put all type of facility on that property that would satisfy the needs of that community and the country for a very long period of time. But where they're putting it right now, it's locked in. It doesn't make sense. It is just kind of.
Listen what the two ministers said. Well, one minister said, and the minister quoted the other minister. Two ministers said that they think that they should not disregard the UB land.
Yeah.
Now,
Do those two ministers have enough cojones to stand up and say,
for me, yeah, but let's suppose that the government decide, listen, I think we need to review this matter. We look like there is enough evidence to tell us that we need to keep this thing here and spend the money there.
Mm-hmm.
You need not give back the 6.9 million. If
Yeah,
the land was 6.9 million, then go for the subdivision of the land
Yeah.
and sell it and recover the money.
Give it to the people. Make it public. Maybe make it public land for government distribution. Yeah.
How many of them there understood what the commissioner of land was saying? Why he did not do a comparative valuation?
Yeah.
But instead he gone because he said that the man's intent was to do a
subdivide
subdivision of the land.
Yeah.
So if your intention is to do a subdivision of the land, then he's trying to see now what is the residual value. That's what he was looking at. He said.
Exactly.
So if he arrived at 3 point something million,
Mm-hmm.
and the man was asking 9 million,
Mm-hmm.
where is that residual value?
gentlemen, we're out of time, gentlemen and lady.
Yeah.
That's it.
I know where that residual value is.
This right here is depressing. Because
That's
like nothing we can do about this.
No,
and
we
it
can.
seems like
I think
everybody.
speaking at
You think there's something that can be done?
I'm sure there's stuff that can be done. The people have to come together.
You're expecting a victory, a hope over experience.
I'm saying that
hope for that. The experience is that it's going to wash away. Next week we're gonna have a whole new issue for discuss. Make we see it come up. No, I don't see much hope in this at all, and I hate to say it because the man has said this. I had to move on. What are you gonna do? What
people,
can
the
we
people
do?
I
What have
believe,
we ever done?
the people are the owner of this democracy.
What
and
people
they
are you
need-
talking about? Not these people that I'm seeing every day here. I'm sorry. I'm not. You'd have to show me something better than this. So what I'm seeing is not hopeful at all, and it's a sad case because we need to do better. We desperately need to do better. How we gonna climb out of it? We listen to the gentleman Greg Myers. They talk about something there that we see every day. Every day we see that same kind of a paradigm played out in all aspects of our society, and nothing is being done to improve it. Let's
corruption
see
is
what,
corruption is a problem across every
man.
part of our society.
Yeah, but and yes, we understand it.
It's
What
deeply
are we gonna
entrenched.
do about it? You know what I'm saying? What are we going? Gentlemen, have a nice evening.
I think Michelle Obama said it right. He said, do something about it.
That's right. Now you see it, do something about it.
Yeah.
And then talk about American politics this week. We're going to talk about that some more next week. Amongst other things, there's the Belize Park Fest coming up. We listen.
Yeah, let me say it really quick. To our audiences, especially those in New York, Sea Smoke and the Kingdom April will be at the Park Fest. Please come out and get some goodies. There will be some T-shirts and so forth that you guys can purchase and get to meet the producer, Mr. Young.
All right, people, CY, take it away. Respect every time.
Good evening, all.
Good night, guys.
Good night. Good night.
Good night.
Disappear for a while, but now I am back again, introducing a new style, them call the Ling Bang. I am a musical zen, violating the charts again. Disappear for a while, but now I am back again, introducing a new style, them call the Ling Bang. I am a musical zen, violating the charts again. Ling Bang, no matter if you're 50 or 10, Ling Bang. Big bully in a pen, Ling Bang. Rooster or hen, this one, yeah. Creme de la creme, Ling Bang. No matter if you're 50 or 10, Ling Bang. Big bully in a pen, Ling Bang. Rooster or hen, this one, yeah. Creme de la creme. First, make you see how far your back bend. If you don't know how, get less of a current. Turn your body round like a smoothie or the blend. New dance trend. Style we no borrow, style we no lend. For sure, we no the beg no friend. From in the thing from way back when for the elders and the children. Can't do this thing till they gonna to do it like charge. Back it up in the garage. Make them know we squad living large. Hold a salute every sarge. Disappear for a while, but now I am back again. Introducing a new style, them call the Ling Bang. I am a musical zen, violating the charts again. Disappear for a while, but now I am back again, introducing a new style, them call the Ling Bang. I am a musical zen, violating the charts again. Ling Bang, no matter if you're 50 or 10, Ling Bang. Big bully in a pen, Ling Bang. Rooster or hen, this one, yeah. Creme de la creme, Ling Bang. No matter if you're 50 or 10, Ling Bang. Big bully in a pen, Ling Bang. Rooster or hen, this one, yeah. Creme de la creme. We like when you shake it. Never gonna DR if you can't fake it. Entire yam, heart and thick. Mama take 9 months to make it. Act like you didn't need Johnny cake before you bake it. Take a pass with the cars, then twerk it. Then your style you can't buy the new market. All of the style Ling Bang surpass it, yo.